Good evening, everyone. My name is Dangerous Darren Fears. Welcome to the Fox Sports 1670 FanDuel Fantasy Football Fix. Of course, we are set to enter week number 5 with tonight's contest between the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. First of all, let me welcome our fantasy football expert who's vacationing down in Florida, John Cooper, also known as the Calculator. What's going on, Mr. Calculator?
Nothing much, just enjoying some time off.
Outstanding. Week 5 begins tonight. Let's get straight to it, man. Andrew Luck, I think, is expected to get the start tonight, but certainly you would want to stay away from him. Texans also got some injury issues as well as quarterback issues. What are your thoughts on tonight's game?
I think Andrew Luck will play tonight. I think he has a favorable matchup. Houston has looked vulnerable to the pass, evidenced last week in their debacle against the Falcons. But I do think Andrew Luck will play. I think he'll do well. I think the pass rush will not be able to get to him. They're going to have a game plan for him to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And I think Indianapolis does win by a field goal.
There are some other marquee matchups this week which could make for some interesting scoring as it relates to fantasy football numbers. Who are some of the players that jumps off of the list this week that you would say definitely play this guy?
Philip Rivers jumped off the board at me at $7,500 this week. Rivers was the top fantasy quarterback in week 4. Even though he's at home for another favorable matchup, Pittsburgh has played better than expected on defense in the past 3 weeks. In past meetings, Rivers struggled outside of garbage time against the Steelers. This season, Rivers has moved to a very quick dink and dunk approach, which is the scheme that has befuddled Pittsburgh for a long time now. Just look at week 1's matchup versus the Patriots as an example. Rivers could have another big 300-yard and multiple touchdown performance Monday night, and he is only going for $7,500. If you don't want to spend that much, you can go down another level and look at Alex Smith. He is going for $6,900. There's always trepidation over picking Smith. He has threw for a career-high 386 yards last week, but failed to lead a single touchdown drive. With that said, he has moved offense well in the past 2 weeks against solid defenses. Since he is at home against the 29th ranked pass defense, I think the touchdowns will come this week. Smith could easily have one of those games with 260 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is a steal at this price. If you look at the running back position, Todd Gurley jumped out on the page at $6,700. The Packers ranked 31st against the run. Go another level down. C.J. Spiller, he's only going for $5,500. Spiller's overtime catch and run to win last week's game showed that he can overcome the injuries that he had this preseason. Also, I think the head coach of the Saints, Sean Payton, will want to show that he has finally found the proper replacement for Sproles, who just happens to be on the other team for this week's matchup. This is probably the last week you'll be able to buy Spiller under $6,000, so buy low while you still can. Let's move to the wide receiver position. Martavius Bryant is back. They priced him at $6,100 this weekend. Bryant was posed for a huge season before his 4-game suspension. He looked like a star in the preseason, which might not mean anything if he wasn't as impressive as a rookie last season. Look for Michael Vick to test San Diego deep with Bryant on Monday night. All it takes is one big play to make the $6,100 salary pay off. For D'Antonio Brown, Martavius Bryant is the Pittsburgh receiver to target this week. Go really into the bargain basement. Willie Snead, he's going for $5,300. Someone has to catch passes in New Orleans. Snead is cheap. He plays in a pass-happy offense with Drew Brees, now healthy. He just had his best game against Dallas, and the Eagles allow the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Tight end, Owen Daniels, he's going for $4,900. Peyton Manning to Owen Daniels hasn't been quite as good as expected yet, but the two have connected for a touchdown in each of the past 2 games. The big advantage is Denver plays Oakland, which has allowed over 100 fantasy points to tight ends, which is nearly 24 more points than the next closest defense. Daniels is a major touchdown threat and dirt cheap this week. Now, who are we going to stay away from? These are the overpriced players that I would not put a lot of my money into. At quarterback, Russell Wilson, going for $8,200. Wilson has posted respectable fantasy numbers, but this matchup feels like a perfect storm brewing for a major Seattle letdown. It's a short week off an emotional win where Wilson was sacked 6 times and the offense barely scored. It's on the road against a hot Cincinnati team with a talented defense. 10 a.m. start time for the Pacific Seahawks, a situation they have not thrived in under Pete Carroll. Being priced as the 4th highest quarterback this week is not a wise investment. Staying with the Seattle theme at running back, Marshawn Lynch is going for $8,600. You have the 3rd highest priced running back with an injury on the road against the top 5 team. Spend your money elsewhere. Wide receiver, Antonio Brown is going for $8,600. Michael Vick just kills Antonio Brown's value. Vick is better with the deep ball rather than short and intermediate routes, which is why Brown is not the Steeler wide receiver to own this week. Anquan Bolden is going for $6,200. Colin Kaepernick's terrible start to the season is causing havoc to the skill players' fantasy value. Anquan Bolden is borderline Hall of Famer, but he's averaging only 8.3 yards per catch this season. I wouldn't pay $5,300 for him, much less anything over $6,000. And we'll end it with tight end Ladarius Green. He's going for $5,100. Now, Green did a solid job as the team's top tight end, but with Antonio Gates' return from suspension, Green takes a back seat to the future Hall of Famer. Look for Phillip Rivers to get Gates involved right away against Pittsburgh, which won't leave much work at all for Green.
And this man is a member of how many fantasy football leagues?
27, Darren. 27 leagues.
That certainly qualifies you as a fantasy football expert. Now, you know how big of an Atlanta Falcon fan I am. Devontae Freeman has really been off the charts the last couple of weeks. He's going for $6,300 this week against Washington. What do you think about playing Devontae this week?
I'm still a little skeptical about Devontae in the fact that Washington Redskins secondary is their weakness. They have a decent front seven. They've been able to contain a lot of running backs. I really think Julio Jones will be the focal point for this weekend, although Devontae Freeman has been playing great, seeing the holes, he's hitting them, he's shown that he's very explosive. I just don't like his price this weekend against a solid front line for Washington Redskins.
What about Hankerson? Do you think he would be a good pickup? I mean, obviously he's not going to be as expensive as Julio.
He is a good pickup. He's shown that he can get open. He's shown that he's actually more explosive than Roddy White right now. And with all the attention having to go to Julio Jones, Hankerson is a good price this week.
Outstanding. Certainly, we appreciate the love. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, and we'll talk to you in week 6, sir.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Looking forward to it.
You've been listening to the FanDuel Fantasy Football Fix. My name is Dangerous Darren Fears on Fox Sports 1670.